The strange encounter hooked the night was quiet on the human colony of New Terra. The city lights shined like stars on the ground, and the streets were almost empty. John, a simple human man, walked slowly back to his small apartment. He was tired from a long day of work. His job was boring, his life was lonely, and every day felt the same. He often thought that nothing exciting would ever happen to him, but that night was different. As John crossed a narrow street, he heard a soft sound behind him. At first, he thought it was just the wind, but then he heard footsteps. They were light, almost careful, like someone trying not to be heard. John turned quickly, his eyes searching the shadows, and then he saw her. A strange figure stepped out from the darkness. She was tall but thin, and her skin glowed faintly under the streetlight. Her eyes were large, shining like silver, full of fear and sadness. She wore torn clothes, and her hands shook as she tried to walk closer. John froze. He had never seen anything like her before. She was clearly not human. She was alien. The alien woman stumbled forward and then fell to her knees right in front of him. She looked up at him with desperate eyes. "Please," she whispered, her voice soft but trembling. "Help me. Marry me, please." John's mouth fell open. He thought he had misheard her. "What? What did you say?" The alien woman pressed her hands together, almost like she was praying. "Marry me? I beg you, please. If you don't, they will find me. They will kill me, and you too." John's heart began to race. His first thought was that this must be some kind of trick. Who was this strange woman? Why was she begging him, a total stranger, for marriage in the middle of the night? He stepped back, looking around to see if anyone was watching. The street was empty, silent, but he felt a strange tension in the air, like danger was very close. The woman's breathing was heavy. She looked weak, like she had been running for days without rest. There were marks on her arms, long scars that told a story of pain. "Please," she said again, her voice breaking. "You don't understand. I have no time if they find me unmarried. They will take me away. They will end me. You are my only chance." John's mind spun with questions. Who were they? Why did marriage matter? Why him? Nothing made sense, and yet the fear in her eyes was real. He bent down slightly, trying to calm her. "Listen, I don't know who you are. I don't even know your name. Why would I marry you?" Tears ran down her glowing cheeks. "Because no one else will. Humans are the only ones safe. If I am married to a human, their law cannot touch me. But if I am alone," she shook her head, "it is the end." John stared at her, lost between disbelief and shock. He wanted to walk away, to leave her, because this sounded insane. But something about her weakness, her begging voice, her eyes that looked full of pain made him hesitate. Before he could answer, a sound echoed in the distance. A low, humming noise, like engines in the sky. John looked up and saw dark shapes moving above the city. Strange black ships, silent but threatening, hovered in the distance. The alien woman gasped and gripped his arm tightly. "They are here. Please, you must choose now." John's skin went cold. He could feel her fear like it was his own. The ships began to scan the streets with red lights, sweeping the ground as if searching for someone. "They are hunting me," she whispered. "If they see me with no human bond, they will destroy me." John felt trapped. His normal life was gone in an instant. In front of him knelt a desperate alien woman begging for marriage, while in the sky, strange hunters searched for her. He opened his mouth, but no words came. His heart pounded, and his mind shouted at him to run. But his feet did not move. He could only stare at the woman who clung to him like her life depended on it. And maybe it did. The humming grew louder. The red lights grew brighter. The danger was closer every second. John realized that whatever choice he made tonight would change his life forever. The warning in the air was heavy with fear. The red searchlights from the black ships cut across the streets like burning eyes. John stood frozen, his heart hammering in his chest. The alien woman clutched his arm, her silver eyes wide with terror. "Don't. Let them see me," she whispered, her voice shaking. "If they catch me now, everything is lost." John swallowed hard. He still didn't know her name. He didn't know if she was telling the truth or lying, but the panic in her voice felt real. The ships were getting closer, the humming louder. The lights sweeping nearer. "Come with me," John muttered quickly. He pulled her into a narrow alley, pressing her against the cold wall. They both held their breath as a red beam passed by, inches away. For a moment, silence returned. But John's head was spinning. He turned to her and whispered sharply, "Who are you? Why are they chasing you? Why marriage?" "I need answers." The woman trembled but tried to speak. "My name is Lyra. I come from a world far beyond this colony. My people, they betrayed me. They want me silenced. Silenced." John whispered back. Lyra nodded. Her face was pale, her hands shaking. "I carry knowledge, knowledge that can destroy them. They fear what I know, so they hunt me. If they capture me unmarried, they can claim me as their prisoner. But if I am bonded to a human, your laws protect me. They cannot touch me." John frowned. This sounded insane. "You expect me to believe that marriage is what saves you?" Her eyes glistened. "Not love, not romance, just law. On New Terra, the Human Protection Act shields alien partners. It was made after the war. Your leaders wanted peace. If I marry you, their hands are tied. They cannot harm me without breaking human law. That is why I begged you." John remembered the act. It was a strange law, rarely spoken of. Some humans had married aliens after the war, but it was rare, almost forbidden. Still, Lyra's words rang true, but something still bothered him. Why me? Out of all the humans, why choose me? Lyra lowered her head. "Because you were alone. Because your heart, I felt no hatred in you. Many humans look at me with disgust. You looked at me with fear, yes, but not hate. That is enough." John stared at her. He wanted to walk away. But then the humming above grew louder again. The ships were circling back. Time was running out. Lyra grabbed his hand suddenly, her grip surprisingly strong. "Listen to me, John. If they find me, they won't only kill me. They will kill you too. They erase all witnesses. If you walk away now, your life ends tonight." A chill ran through John's body. Her words were cold, sharp, and full of danger. He looked up again. 3 black ships hovered above the district now. He whispered, "What do they want from you exactly?" "What knowledge do you have?" Lyra hesitated. Her lips trembled as she answered softly, "A weapon. A secret weapon buried. On a dead world, if I tell you, they will know. If they know, they will destroy this colony to hide it. That is why I must survive. That is why I need you." John felt his breath catch in his throat. He couldn't believe what he was hearing. A weapon? A secret so big that it could put an entire colony in danger. And now he was part of it. Just because he had stopped to look at a stranger. "You're asking me to risk everything," John said in a low voice. Lyra's silver eyes locked on his. "I am asking you to save not just me, but maybe your people too. You don't have to trust me, but you must not abandon me." The sound of engines roared louder. The red lights swept closer, brushing against the alley. Shadows danced on the walls. John's chest tightened. He could run. He could escape. Leave her behind, pretend none of this was real. But deep inside, something told him he couldn't. He saw her scars again. The way her hands trembled. The way she begged, not just for her life, but for hope. The lights were almost on them. Lyra pressed herself closer to him, her voice a whisper of despair. "Choose now, John. Help me, or watch both of us die." John's fists clenched. Fear raced through his veins, but so did a strange fire. He was no hero, no soldier, no leader. But maybe fate had chosen him for this moment. The red light stopped at the entrance of the alley. Silence fell, except for the slow hum of the ship. John leaned closer to Lyra, his voice barely audible. "Fine, I'll help you, but you better be telling the truth." Lyra's face lit with relief, though fear still lingered. "Thank you. You won't regret this, you'll see." The ship moved on, the lights sweeping away into the distance. For now, they were safe. But John knew this was only the beginning. Lyra closed her eyes for a moment, then opened them with a new seriousness. "John," she said quietly, "you need to understand something. Tonight, your life is no longer your own. From now on, their eyes will be on you too. You are part of this now." John felt the weight of her words settle deep inside him. His simple, lonely life had ended. He was now standing at the edge of something dangerous, something far bigger than himself. And there was no turning back. The choice the night air was still cold, but John's skin burned with tension. He stood with Lyra in the dark alley, his heart pounding. The black ships had passed for now, but the danger was far from over. He knew it. She knew it. Lyra's silver eyes glowed faintly in the shadows as she held his arm tightly. "John," she whispered, "you must decide. If you walk away, both of us die. If you stay, we may survive." John took a step back, shaking his head. "This is insane. I don't even know you. You expect me to throw away my life for a stranger?" Her face was pale, her voice trembling but steady. "Not a stranger. A life that has crossed with yours. By fate. If you help me, you will not just save me. You will save yourself too." John wanted to laugh at the word fate, but the look in her eyes stopped him. They were desperate, but there was also something deeper, quiet strength hidden behind the fear. He rubbed his forehead, trying to think clearly. His life had been simple until tonight. Work, home, sleep, repeat. He had never been a hero, never wanted to be. Yet now, one choice stood before him like a wall he could not avoid. "Why can't you find someone else?" he asked bitterly. "There are thousands of humans on this colony. Why me?" Lyra hesitated, her hands trembling as she showed him the scars on her arms again. "I tried, they turned away. Humans fear me. They see only an alien fugitive, not a living being, but you. You stopped. You didn't turn away. That is why it must be you." John's chest tightened. Her words pierced deeper than he expected. She was right, he could have walked past her, but something inside him had made him stop. Was it pity, curiosity, or something else? Before he could answer, the low hum of the black ships returned. They were circling closer, searching with patience that felt endless. A red beam slid across the walls at the end of the alley, making John's breath catch. Lyra grabbed his hand suddenly, her voice urgent. "They are near. If they see me, it is finished. Please, John, choose now. Stay or leave. But if you leave, know this: your name will be erased by morning. No trace, no memory. They kill silently." John's blood ran cold. He realized this was no ordinary chase. Whoever hunted her had power, reach, and no mercy. But still, the weight of her request crushed him. Marriage, bonding. It was absurd. He had never thought about marriage, let alone marrying an alien woman he had met minutes ago. His mind screamed at him that it was madness, yet his heart whispered something else. He looked at her scars again, the glow of her eyes, the way her body shook not from weakness alone, but from exhaustion and pain. This was not a trick. This was survival. The ships drew closer, their search beams now only a street away. Lyra pressed closer to him, whispering fiercely, "John, listen to me. If you walk away, you may live for one more hour. But when they find me, they will erase every witness. You are already marked. The only way out is with me. Marriage is not just lit, is a shield." John's heart pounded. His mind screamed, "This is not your fight." But his gut said, "If you run, you'll regret it forever." He closed his eyes for a second, trying to breathe. His past flashed in his mind, years of loneliness, silent nights, the feeling of being invisible. No one had ever begged him for help before. No one had ever looked at him with such desperate trust. When he opened his eyes, Lyra was staring at him, waiting, trembling, holding her breath. John finally spoke, his voice low but firm. "If I do this, if I agree, you have to tell me everything. No lies, no secrets." Lyra nodded quickly, tears shining in her silver eyes. "I promise. I will tell you all. But first, we must live through this night." The red beam suddenly hit the alley entrance, blinding them. A black ship hovered close, scanning the area. John grabbed Lyra's hand and pulled her deeper into the shadows, pressing her against the wall. His decision was made, whether he liked it or not. "I'll help you," he whispered fiercely. "But if this is a trick, I swear," Lyra placed her glowing hand over his lips. "No trick. Only truth. You just saved both of us." The beam passed by, sliding across the wall and moving away. The ship drifted onward, unaware of the two figures hidden in the darkness. John exhaled heavily, his heart racing like never before. He realized that his choice had bound him to her now. There was no way back to his old life. Lyra leaned close, her whisper like a vow. "From this moment, John, your path and mine are one. Together, we live our together. We fall." John said nothing, but deep inside, he felt the truth of her words. His life had changed forever. The choice was made. The secret the alley was silent. Again, but John's heart was still thundering like a drum. The black ships had moved farther away, but the red glow of their search beams still flickered against the walls in the distance. Lyra leaned against the wall, her chest rising and falling. Quickly. She looked weak, but her eyes, those glowing silver eyes, still held fire. "You have chosen," she whispered softly, almost like she could not believe it. "You will help me." John rubbed his face with both hands. "I don't know if it's was a choice or a trap. But either way, I need answers now. Who are they? Why are they hunting you? And what is this secret you keep talking about?" Lyra lowered her gaze. For a moment, she was silent, as if deciding whether to trust him. Then, she spoke slowly. "My people call them the Black Order. They are not soldiers, not guards. They are executioners. They erase anyone who dares to betray the council." John frowned. "The council? You mean your government?" "Yes," she said bitterly, "but not a government of peace. They rule with fear. Anyone who questions them is silenced forever. I once served them. I was part of their science division, and then I discovered the truth." John leaned closer. "What truth?" Lyra hesitated, then her voice dropped to a whisper. "A weapon? A weapon older than my people. Buried deep, on a dead world. A weapon that can burn entire colonies in a single breath. John's blood went cold. You're saying they have something that powerful? Lyra shook her head. Not yet, but they seek it. And I found the location. I recorded it. When they discovered I knew, they ordered my death. If I vanish, no one will ever know. If I survive, the weapon may be stopped before it awakens. John felt the weight of her words like a mountain pressing down on him. And you think marrying me will protect you from them? That's insane. Not insane, Lyra replied sharply, her voice trembling but strong. It is law. The Human Protection Act. If I bond with you, the Order cannot touch me openly. They fear your human courts. They fear exposure. They kill in shadows, not in light. Marriage makes me visible. It makes me safe. John ran his fingers through his hair, pacing a few steps. Safe. You call this safe? I just watched death ships searching for you. They find us, marriage papers won't stop them. Lyra's eyes softened. It will not stop them from trying. But it will make them hesitate. It will give us time. Time is all we need. Time to warn others. Time to stop the weapon. John stared at her. He wanted to call her a liar, a manipulator, a desperate alien spinning wild stories. But deep inside, he felt the weight of truth. Her scars, her fear, her trembling hands. This was not an act. Still, he was human. Doubt was his shield. You could be leading me into a trap. Maybe you are one of them. Lyra flinched at his words, pain flashing across her face. She pulled down the collar of her torn clothes, revealing a dark mark burned into her skin near her shoulder. It looked like a brand, ugly and cruel. This, she said in a shaking voice, is the mark of the hunted. Once branded, there is no return. No safety, no family, only death. Do you think I would show you this if I were lying? John's chest tightened. The brand looked real, too real. He felt guilt twist inside him for doubting her. Lyra looked into his eyes, her voice breaking. I have nothing left, John. No world, no people, no hope. Only this secret, only this chance. If you abandon me, the Order will win, and countless lives will be lost. The distant hum of the ships grew louder again, reminding them both that the night was not yet safe. John exhaled slowly. He hated this. He hated being dragged into something so huge, so dangerous, but he also hated the thought of walking away. He had lived his whole life as if nothing mattered. Now, for the first time, something did. He looked at Lyra. If I stay with you, if I marry you, what happens then? What do we do? Lyra straightened, her weakness fading for a moment. Then we survive. We keep moving until the hunters grow tired. We find a safe place. And when the time is right, I will show you the location of the weapon. Together, we will stop it. But alone, I cannot. John's mouth was dry. He wanted to refuse, to say no, to run away. But the word would not come, because deep down, he already knew the answer. The red lights flashed again at the far end of the street, sweeping closer. Lyra's voice grew urgent. We must go. Choose later, if you must. But right now, if we stay. Here, choice will not matter. John nodded slowly. Fine, we move. Lyra's eyes softened with relief, though the fear never left them. She reached for his hand again, and this time, he did not pull away. As they slipped into the shadows, John realized the truth. His life was no longer his own. He had stepped into her war, her secret, her fate, and whether he liked it or not, there was no way back. The streets of New Terra were no longer quiet. The hum of black ships rolled through the air like thunder, and red beams swept across buildings with hungry eyes. John and Lyra ran through the shadows, their footsteps echoing on the cold stone ground. John had never run like this before. His lungs burned, his legs ached, but fear pushed him forward. Behind him, the engines grew louder. The hunters were closing in, faster. Lyra whispered urgently, pulling him by the hand. Her grip was strong, far stronger than he expected from her thin frame. She moved like someone who had been chased all her life. John stumbled, nearly falling, but she yanked him back to his feet. "Do not stop," she hissed. "If they catch us, there will be no second chance." They darted through an abandoned marketplace. Stalls stood empty, shadows stretching long across the ground. Suddenly, a sharp beam of red light cut across their path, forcing them to dive behind a broken cart. John pressed his back against the wood, his heart slamming in his chest. The beam moved slowly, scanning the area. He held his breath, praying the light wouldn't find them. Lyra leaned close, whispering they can sense fear. "Control your breath. Stay still." John clenched his jaw, forcing himself to breathe quietly, though his chest screamed for air. The beam lingered for a terrifying moment, then slid away. The ship above drifted past, its shadow swallowing the marketplace before fading into the distance. John exhaled shakily. "This is insane," he muttered. "We can't outrun ships." Lyra's eyes flashed. "Then we must not run like prey. We must move like hunters." Before John could answer, a sharp noise cracked through the air. A dart struck the wooden cart beside him, sizzling with blue energy. "They found us," Lyra shouted. Figures appeared at the far end of the marketplace. Dark shapes, tall and armored, their faces hidden behind silver masks. Their movements were silent, their weapons glowing faintly with strange energy. John froze. They weren't soldiers, no. They were worse. These were assassins. Lyra grabbed his arm. "Move." They sprinted across the marketplace as darts rained down, striking the ground with sparks. John's legs burned, but adrenaline carried him forward. They reached a narrow tunnel entrance, and Lyra pushed him inside just as another dart exploded behind them, filling the air with smoke. The tunnel was dark, damp, and endless. Their footsteps echoed, chased by the sound of hunters following close behind. John gasped for air. "We can't keep this up." Lyra didn't slow. "You must. Survival demands pain." The tunnel twisted downward into the underbelly of the colony. Pipes dripped water and the smell of rust filled the air. John stumbled again, but Lyra pulled him onward. Then, from behind them, a hunter leaped into the tunnel. His silver mask glowed in the dark, and his weapon aimed straight at them. John's heart stopped. There was no escape. But Lyra spun around, her hands glowing faintly. With a sudden movement, she slammed her palms against the wall. Sparks of strange energy shot out, collapsing part of the tunnel between them and the hunter. Dust and stone rained down, blocking the assassin's path. John stared in shock. What? What was that? Lyra's chest heaved with exhaustion. A gift from my world. I cannot do it often, but sometimes fear gives me strength. The sound of the hunters pounding against the rubble grew louder. The barrier would not hold forever. Come, she urged, pulling him deeper into the tunnels. They ran until the tunnel opened into a wide underground chamber. Old machines lay broken, and the air smelled of oil and ash. For a moment, silence returned. John collapsed against a wall, gasping. This is madness. We can't outrun them. We can't fight them. They'll kill us no matter what. Lyra knelt beside him, her face pale, but her eyes sharp. No, John. They are not gods. They bleed like us. Tonight, we escaped. That is proof. John shook his head. We didn't escape. We just delayed the end. Lyra leaned closer, her voice urgent. Do not think like prey. Think like someone who wants to live. If you break, they win. If you stand, you may live another night. That is all survival is, one night at a time. John looked at her, her silver eyes burning in the dark. He had never met anyone like her. Weak and strong, terrified yet unbroken. Somehow, she made him feel braver just by speaking. Before he could answer, a deep rumble shook the chamber. Dust fell from the ceiling. The rubble behind them was breaking apart. The hunters were coming. Lyra stood, pulling John to his feet. We cannot stay. There is one place left. A place even they will hesitate to enter. John's eyes widened. Where? She hesitated, then said softly, the old ruins. A place of the first settlers. Dark, cursed, some say. But it will hide us. Even the hunters fear what sleeps there. John swallowed hard. The idea of running into ruins haunted by unknown things was terrifying. But the thought of silver-masked assassins tearing through the tunnels behind them was worse. Fine, he muttered, his voice shaky. Lead the way. Lyra nodded and took his hand again. Together, they vanished into the deeper tunnels, toward a place of shadows and secrets. Behind them, the hunters broke through the rubble. Their silver masks gleamed in the dark, and their weapons hummed with deadly light. The chase was far from over. The Banda tunnels grew colder as John and Lyra moved deeper underground. The air was damp, and every step echoed like a whisper of ghosts. John's breath came in short bursts. His body was weak, but fear kept him moving. Finally, after what felt like hours, they reached a broken stairway that led into a wide chamber. Ancient stone walls stretched high above them, cracked and covered in faded symbols. Strange blue moss glowed faintly across the walls, casting an eerie light. John stopped, staring around. What is this place? Lyra touched one of the walls gently, her voice soft. The ruins of the first settlers. Humans built this long before I was born. They say the ruins are cursed. That voices whisper here. That is why the hunters will not follow quickly. John swallowed. The chamber felt heavy, as if the air itself carried secrets. But at least it was silent. No ships, no hunters, no beams of red light. He dropped to the ground, exhausted. His whole body ached. Lyra sat beside him, equally drained. For a moment, neither of them spoke. Finally, John broke the silence. I still don't understand why me. Why not wait for someone stronger, smarter? A soldier. Lyra turned her head slowly, her silver eyes glowing in the faint blue light. Because soldiers are easy to see, the order watches them. But you walk unseen. A quiet man, alone, no one to notice. That makes you dangerous to them. That makes you my only chance. John gave a weak laugh. Dangerous. I can barely run without falling over. Lyra smiled faintly. And yet, you are still here. Many would have left me already. But you stayed. That is strength too. John looked at her scars again. The brand burned into her skin. He could not imagine the pain she had suffered. They really want you dead, just for knowing the truth. Her face darkened. Not just dead, forgotten. The Black Order erases names, memories, even records. To them, killing me is not enough. They want no proof I ever lived. A chill ran down John's spine. That's evil. Lyra nodded slowly. Yes, that is why I fight to live. Because if I die, they win, and their weapon will rise. That cannot happen. Silence fell again, broken only by the dripping of water in the distance. John leaned his head back against the wall, staring at the glowing moss. He had never thought of himself as part of anything important. Yet now, his life was tied to something greater than he could imagine. Lyra's voice softened. "Do you regret it?" John turned to her. "Regret what?" "Choosing to help me. Binding your path with mine, it was not your fight. I dragged you into it." John hesitated. Part of him wanted to say yes. His life had been simple, safe, even if lonely. Now it was chaos, danger, and fear. But as he looked at her eyes, full of both sadness and strength, he found the truth in his heart. "No," he said quietly. "I don't regret it. Not yet." Lyra's lips trembled, and for the first time, John saw a small, real smile. Not of victory, not of survival, but of hope. For a long moment, they simply sat together in silence. Two souls from different worlds bound by fear, yet slowly drawn closer by trust. But peace never lasted long. A distant rumble shook the chamber. Dust fell from the ceiling. John sat up quickly. "They're coming again." Lyra stood, her expression hardening. "Yes, they will not stop. But here, we may have one advantage." She led him deeper into the chamber, toward a broken archway, covered in moss. Strange carvings covered the stone, glowing faintly in the dark. John frowned. "What is this?" Lyra touched the carvings gently. "A door, old and forgotten. My people would call it a sanctuary. Yours may have called it a temple. It may hold answers, or dangers. But if we pass inside, the hunters may not follow." John stared at the archway, unease growing in his chest. "You don't even know what's inside, do you?" Lyra shook her head slowly. "No, but I know this. The Order fears these ruins. That alone makes them worth trusting." John sighed, running a hand through his messy hair. He had already stepped into madness. Why stop now? He glanced at Lyra. She was tired, her body weak, but her eyes shone with determination. In that moment, he realized she was not just some stranger begging for help. She was someone fighting for her very soul. And now, so was he. He stood beside her. "All right. Let's see what's inside." Kira's eyes softened again, filled with quiet gratitude. Together, then, for a brief moment, their hands touched light, almost accidental. But the warmth of her skin lingered. It was the first time John felt that this bond was more than survival. Something fragile but powerful was growing between them. The ground shook again, louder this time. The hunters were close. Without another word, John and Lyra stepped through the archway into the darkness beyond. Leaving the crumbling chamber behind, as the shadows swallowed them, John realized something. He was no longer just helping her survive. He wanted her to survive. He wanted her to live, to win, to see freedom. Somewhere, between fear and fire, a bond had been born. The final stand, the ruins, swallowed them in silence. The air was colder here, heavy with dust and mystery. John and Lyra moved carefully through the dark hallway, the blue moss glowing faintly on the walls. Each step echoed as if the ancient stones were listening. John's chest tightened. This place feels wrong. Lyra's voice was calm but low. Yes, old places hold memories. Some are peaceful, some are not. But we must trust the silence. The hunters fear it, and that gives us a chance. But silence never lasted. A deep rumble shook the floor, and from behind them came the sound John dreaded. The hunters had entered the ruins. Their footsteps were heavy, steady, like death itself, marching closer. Lyra grabbed John's arm. "Cannot run forever. If they catch us here, it ends. We must face them." John's throat went dry. "Face them? With what?" "I don't have a weapon. I don't even know how to fight." Lyra looked at him, her silver eyes glowing brighter than ever. "You have more than you think. Courage. And me." Before John could answer, 3 hunters stepped into the chamber ahead. Their silver masks reflected the glowing moss, and their weapons hummed with deadly light. John's heart froze. The hunters had surrounded them. Lyra pulled him behind a broken pillar. "Listen to me," she whispered quickly. "The ruins have power, old energy. I can use it, but only if you protect me. If they strike before I finish, we die." John clenched his fists. Protect her against assassins. It sounded impossible, but there was no other choice. He nodded shakily. "Do it. I'll hold them." Lyra pressed her glowing hands against the stone floor, whispering in a strange tongue. Blue light spread across the cracks like fire, filling the chamber with a strange hum. The hunters moved forward. One raised his weapon, aiming at Lyra. John didn't think he acted. He grabbed a broken piece of stone and hurled it with all his strength. It struck the hunter's mask, making him stagger for a moment. Not much, but enough. "Stay back." John shouted, though his voice shook. Another hunter rushed forward, blade shining with energy. John grabbed a rusted metal pipe from the floor and swung wildly. Sparks flew as the blade struck the pipe, nearly knocking it from his hands. John stumbled, fear surging through him, but then he heard Lyra's voice, chanting softly, her glow growing brighter. He couldn't fail her now. The hunter swung again. John ducked, rolling across the ground. Achaia, he swung the pipe with all his strength, slamming it into the hunter's leg. The assassin staggered. Achaia's arms ached, but he forced himself to keep fighting. The third hunter aimed at Lyra, ignoring John. Panic exploded in his chest. "No!" John roared, charging forward. He slammed into the assassin, knocking him aside. Pain shot through his body, but he didn't care. Lyra had to finish. Blue light now filled the chamber like a storm. The carvings on the walls glowed, the air crackling with strange energy. Lyra's voice rose higher, her eyes shining like stars. Then dash, boom, .a. Wave of blue force burst from the ground, throwing the hunters back like rag dolls. Their weapons flew from their hands, sparks filling the air. The chamber shook violently, and the hunters collapsed. Their silver masks cracked and broken. John dropped to his knees, gasping for breath. His hands shook, his whole body screaming with exhaustion, but he was alive, and so was she. Lyra stood slowly, her glow fading, but her eyes still bright. She looked at John with quiet pride. "You protected me. You chose well." John gave a weak laugh, coughing. "I nearly died. And yet, you live," she said softly. The hunters lay broken, but John knew it was not the end. The Order would send more. They would never stop. Lyra stepped closer, kneeling beside him. "John, there is one last step, if you truly wish to. Stand with me. We must bond now, not tomorrow, not later. Now or the Order will never stop." John stared at her, his chest still rising and falling heavily. Marriage, bonding. It still felt insane. But after everything, her scars, her secret, her strength, her trust, he realized he no longer doubted. He nodded slowly. "All right, let's do it." Lyra touched his hand gently, her voice steady. "Then speak after me," she whispered, ancient words, and John repeated them clumsily. As the final word left his lips, a glow spread between their hands. A mark appeared on his skin and hers, shining like fire. Linking them, the bond was sealed. Lyra's eyes filled with relief, but also something deeper, something warmer. "Now, John, by law and by spirit, we are one. They cannot take me. They cannot take you." For the first time that night, John felt not fear but strength. Suddenly, the ruins rumbled again. Dust fell, and a deep voice echoed faintly through the chamber. John froze, looking around. "What was that?" he whispered. Lyra's face grew serious. "The ruins have woken. They have accepted our bond. But they may also reveal more than we expect." John's eyes widened. "More? What do you mean?" Lyra turned to him slowly, her silver eyes shining with mystery. "The hunters were only one danger," she said quietly. "Now that we are bound. John, I must tell you the truth. The weapon I spoke of, it is not just buried. It is alive, and now it knows you." John's blood ran cold. He wanted to speak, but words failed him. Lyra's hand tightened around his. Her voice was calm, but her eyes held fire. "Our fight is only beginning." The chamber shook again, louder this time, as if something deep below was waking. And in that moment, John knew this was not the end. It was the beginning of something far greater and far more dangerous than he had ever imagined.